The only British tank to serve throughout World War II, and maybe the only tank you will need for the British in Tunisia. What's up, scholars? It's your professor here, Enlightened Enlisted, and today we're going to be covering the Queen of the Desert, the Matilda II. Today's video is broken down in the overview of the tank, how to use it in game, suggestions on how to make it even better for you, and of course the history of the tank and squad itself. Alright, so this premium tank you can purchase in Tunisia for the British, obviously, for 5,000 enlisted gold, which is $50 US. For that price, you get one of the best tanks I've seen since the Panzer IV-E in the Moscow campaign. It comes with 4 crew members equipped with the basic tank loadout of a sidearm, knife, and a toolkit. Perk-wise, these guys are great, with the gunner perk and the changing ammo type without reloading being the biggest ones. However, it's in the tank's stats where you see the power of this purchase. The mounted Beazle machine gun makes mowing down infantry a breeze, and the 2-pounder cannon keeps Axis concerned about showing too much of their weak points. Its speed is its biggest downside. With all that weight, it's a slow-moving tank for sure. No, like seriously, this tank is very slow. This brings me into gameplay and how you should be using it in game. Because the speed is so slow, you need to keep moving because an explosive pack will kill you instantly, and a moving target is harder to hit. The HE on this thing isn't anything to write home about, so I would just suggest keeping AP loaded most of the time and just killing the infantry with your mounted machine gun. Since you have a massive amount of protection for the crew, there is literally no reason for you to ever look out of the command hatch. The Matilda II is 100% an infantry support tank. This means you need to be pushing with the infantry. Sitting back in the gray zone is not going to help your team ever. It also kind of makes you a dick of a player. However, when pushing, I would try to avoid anything that resembles an incline because this thing struggles to climb. I did find staying on the road pretty handy pretty much all of the time because then you're able to reach your max speed, which is 24 kilometers an hour. You can pretty much bully any Axis armor they throw at you unless it's the Panzer IV-F, which is 100% a threat for you, so you should be on the lookout for those guys. If you are an Axis player, you need to aim for this ammo rack here when facing the Matilda head on. If you find yourself on the side of a Matilda, you can start shooting for the driver or the base of the tank, but shooting the turret is basically a waste of time, I found. Explosive packs are best placed on the top rear of the tank, as the armored skirts will protect it from the internal components being broken. You might de-track it, but you're not really going to kill this thing. In order to keep yourself alive longer in this tank, I would set up my squad like this. Reason for that is you can actually use these guys as somewhat of an armored assault squad to take points if you really need to. I also found that having extra repair toolkits never can hurt you because you can repair your track on your tank, and that'll keep you out of the line of fire from an enemy Stuka. Smokes are great as well in order to protect yourself when you are repairing in not so ideal of an area. Speaking of smokes, sadly the smoke canisters on this tank do absolutely nothing. So what's the history behind this bad boy? Well, as I said in the opener, it's the only tank to serve from the start of World War II to the very end for the British armored divisions. Production started for the Matilda in 1937, and it earned the nickname Matilda Senior because it replaced the obsolete Matilda I. The design would first see action in France with the BAF. In France, the Matilda II would see some relative success with the 7th Royal Tank Regiment, who was able to punch to the rear of the 7th Panzer Army. Unfortunately for the British, they did not have a sufficient amount of infantry support, and a battery of Flak 88 showed up led by Erwin Rommel himself. 30 British Matildas would be destroyed that day, and the remaining Matildas in France would be abandoned after the evacuation at Dunkirk. However, Rommel would not rid himself of the Matildas so easily. The British would send Matildas to fight in North Africa, where they would be used as infantry support tanks, and they used them with deadly effectiveness. It would be here that the Matilda II gets its nickname, the Queen of the Desert. North Africa might be where the Matilda II got its nickname, but it did serve in other parts of the war as well. It would have been used in the Pacific campaign with the Australians, who even had a flamethrower version of the Matilda called the Frog. And even stranger, there was 1,000 Matilda IIs that were sent to the USSR. There are actually accounts of a Matilda fighting at Stalingrad for the Russians, which I find super interesting that the Matilda II seems to be at all these major battles throughout World War II. The Matilda would fire its last round in anger in 1948 against the Israelis while in service with Egypt during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The squad you play in game is the 1st Armored Division, which was formed in 1937 and called the Mobile Division, which was under the command of Major General Roger Evans. As said before, they would obviously see fighting in France before they were pushed off the continent, and then they were put on anti-invasion duties. However, the division would be transferred in November of 1941 to the North African campaign under the command of Major General Noir. The division would take part in the 1st and 2nd battles of El Alamein. They would also be one of the few divisions that would be involved in the entire North African campaign, pushing the Axis out and then later being disbanded in 1945. But that's not the end of the story for this division. In 1977, it would be reformed and would actually lead the spearhead against Iraq in the Persian Gulf War many years later. The 1st Armored Division today is still in service to the Crown, and it is still fighting in Middle Eastern countries. Honestly, this might be the best purchase you can make an Enlisted right now. Is it overpriced? 100%, but that's pretty much every Enlisted squad that I've found. If you're in the market for an amazing tank, then this is the squad for you. I give it a 5 out of 5 and secretly hope that this is an indication that the Pacific is coming next. Well, scholars, that's all I have for you today. If you liked today's video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, hit those books and hit those bottles. Cheers.